Hello, my sexy, gorgeous woman. How are you? Welcome back to Behind Closed Doors. Insert the sparkly emojis. Guys, we've had a rebrand. I want to talk about this and the intention behind it because every fucking thing has changed. Everything has changed. First thing, Behind Closed Doors. I'm calling the podcast this because my new segue into my business now is sex and relationships. It's something I'm very good at teaching. It's something I'm very passionate about. It's something I have a lot fucking experience and evidence in. And I want you to start having the most mouth-watering fucking sex and relationships of your life, dude. I believe as women, we are taught, brainwashed, that our pleasure doesn't matter. And to have an opinion makes you a difficult woman. And to be a difficult woman goes against everything that the man wants in this world. And when we subject ourselves to that way of life, I believe personally, women lose themselves. You're constantly existing to please other people. You're completely abandoning your own needs. You're not speaking up. You're not advocating for yourself. You're not holding space for your emotions. You're not holding space for your pleasure. And everything that you want out of life, it has to come second to someone else's needs. Now, as someone who has experienced that a lot in relationships, friendships, work, business, things like that, I like to say, fuck that. That narrative dies with me. And that's why I created Behind Closed Doors, because I want to be the first coach in this industry to actually be honest with you about what it takes to have really satisfying and healthy relationships and sex life with yourself and other people. Because these are taboo subjects that not really anyone's talking about. And we might be talking about it in a way of like, this is my relationship advice, or this is how you have a good time, or this is how you have this is how you give a good blowjob. But respectfully, that's not going to get you everything that you want. So my approach is a little bit different. My approach is taking all of the taboo stuff that we would say behind closed doors and bringing it into the public eye. I want to have those conversations outwardly and honestly so that women like you get to have a good fucking time. You get to have a good life. You get to receive pleasure. You get to enjoy existing because your needs don't become second to someone else's. And even though I'm in a fucking beautiful relationship and all my needs are met, the way of this podcast, the way of these conversations, I really want to decenter men, because there's a lot of advice on how to be a better girlfriend and how to give good blowjobs and how to do certain things to give to other people. But I believe women give far too fucking much. You've been giving your whole life and your needs still haven't been met. So I'm really bringing in this narrative that it doesn't matter about anyone else except for you. And I really want you to sit with that every time you jump in to either listen to this podcast if you're listening on Spotify or you're watching it on YouTube with me now. I want you to jump into these episodes knowing that this is catered for your experience. I am not the bitch who is going to teach you how to give a better blowjob or how to be a better girlfriend and be more submissive and kind and gentle. Suck my ass. Like literally suck my ass. 1, that's not me. 2, that gets you nowhere. 3, there's enough of that online. Truly enough of that online. So that's what I'm doing differently. And I just really want to preface that because that's going to get rid of a lot of people right out the gate. A lot of people only want to improve their sex and their relationships for their counterpart, their partner. They only want to do it for the male gaze. They only want to do it for male validation. I'm not that bitch. I spent my entire teenage life up until I was probably like 23 being over-sexualized, doing things for men to feel complete, to gain attention, to feel important. And after those experiences, I learned really fucking quickly I couldn't give a flying rat's ass about their experience in this world because my experience is important too. So That's the way that these conversations are going to go. The reason being is I want you to have a good life. I want you to have solid fucking relationships and the best sex of your life. Not because you're more important, but because you are important. And there's a lot of women, and I've had a lot of fucking conversations over the last 6 years with so many women who just forget that they exist in their relationships as well. Like, it takes two to tango, whether that's a friendship, a relationship, whether that's a whatever. I don't know how many people you're having sex with, whoever, whatever the fuck. It is so important that you realize that your needs are just as important as everyone else's. And if you are a self-sacrificing eldest daughter, someone who has just been serving and serving and serving, your natural default to receive, she's kind of silenced. You don't really fucking know how to do that. For someone to go, I'm going to give you everything you want on a silver platter, are you ready for that? You'd be like, no. Do I have to earn it first? What's going on? This is why these conversations are so fucking important, because you don't have to do any of that. And I want to teach you how to take your power back as a woman and just get delicious fucking experiences and remove the subpar standard of like good enough, fine. Not in my world, mate. Not in my world, not on my podcast, not in my coaching. If you have ever been a client of mine, you know how honest and direct these types of conversations are. I am not in the business of protecting your feelings. I literally don't care. I want you to learn something, to be so triggered into change that it changes your entire life. So it improves your entire life. And if that means that I'm going to be labeled as a bitch in your eyes so that you wake the fuck up and recognize where you're going wrong in your relationships and your relationship to pleasure and yourself, lock me up. I don't mind being the villain in your story as long as you learn something. So I just want to give that disclaimer for our first episode that I'm not in the business of protecting your feelings. I love you so much, and I know what it feels like to be a self-sacrificing woman who has never felt like she deserves to receive anything good in her life. Speaking from experience, I've got the t-shirts, I've got the fucking pants, the socks, the undies, and the hat. I've worn it all, okay? So I know how you feel, and now it's time to do something differently. So that's the energy for Behind Closed Doors, and I'm really fucking excited to bring my specialty, my expertise to the conversation, because it's what I'm really fucking good at. And it's so funny. I have always just known that I was going to be some type of like relationship coach or run retreats for couples where they can like deepen their intimacy, but not in a performative way of like stare into each other's eyes and feel each other's soul, but actually like say the fucking thing on your chest, dude. Don't lie to your partner this time. Like, say the thing. And I've always known that that was the type of coach I wanted to be. But there's just been a lot of resistance because relationships and sex are a really taboo subject for a lot of people, and it triggers something in them where they feel inadequate because they're not perfect at it. And I just had to get the fuck over that and go, it doesn't really matter. And now I get to bring all of those expertise to you. So I'm just really, really fucking excited for that, because that's what people have been wanting for a long time. And I was just being a little bit of a scaredy cat. So let me take a sip, because these conversations get juicy and I get thirsty. And then we're going to get into today's first episode. Alrighty. The first thing I want to talk about is how in your relationship you probably lie. Right off the gate, 9 minutes and 7 seconds in, you probably lie to yourself and to your partner. And that is something that I have seen in my relationships previously, my relationship currently up until this point, and then also with so many other women's relationships. Your default is to lie, because to admit that you were unhappy with something would label you as a difficult woman, and you don't want to be difficult. Because difficult women are too much. They're too sensitive. They're harder to deal with, right? And so many men don't want to deal with difficult women because it becomes something that they have to take accountability for. But here's the thing. The more that you pretend like you don't have needs that need to be met and you lie to yourself and your partner about those needs being fulfilled, the longer the resentment will build. Okay? And we've all been there. A perfect example I want to share. I feel like I'm spitting into this microphone. A perfect example, which I'm sure a lot of us can relate to, is when you're having sex with your partner, right? And it's like good, but it's not great. And it's not really doing the thing that you know it needs to do. And then you go, oh my God, that was great. Thank you so much. And then they go and shower and you, in secret, use your vibrator to get yourself off. Now, I'm not shaming you. I'm just calling it out. That type of lying to yourself and convincing yourself that the sex was okay, but we both know behind closed doors that it looks real fucking different. If we continue to not address that, then we're going to have really fucking shitty relationships and we're going to continue to have really subpar sex. And as a woman, I'm going to come in real fucking close when I say this. You deserve to have good sex. Okay? Just because your mom and your grandma and your auntie and your great-grandmother and her great-great-great-grandmother haven't been having fulfilling relationships doesn't mean that that narrative for you needs to continue. And the easiest way to change that is to clock where you lie to yourself. Where do you say, that was good, I'm so satisfied, thank you so much, no, you didn't hurt my feelings, I totally agree. Where do you do that, whether it be in your relationships, in the bedroom, with your friends, wherever, work, business? Where do you do that instead of just admitting that someone in some capacity hasn't fulfilled your needs? And I see this time and time again. Women are so, and I say this as someone who experienced these things, okay? Women are so afraid to hurt people's feelings, and in the process, none of your needs are being fulfilled. So you would rather spare your partner's feelings than admit that that sex you just had was fucking subpar. That was embarrassing. You have had better. Until we get to that level of honesty, guess what's not changing? Guess where the resentment will continue to build. And then the flow-on effect of that is the distance which starts to grow. Because if you're not advocating for your needs here and you're silencing yourself here, and then you're pretending like everything's fine, resentment will build and distance will grow because your partner will want to be intimate. They'll want to flirt a little bit, be a little playful, touchy-feely, and then your brain's going to go back to the evidence that your sex life is shit, and you're going to go, no thanks. I'm tired, babe. I'm not really in the mood for that. But here's the thing. It's not that you're an asexual woman. Been there, done that. It's not that you're an asexual woman who doesn't want to have sex and doesn't want to enjoy things and be in a state of pleasure all the time. You do. You're horny as fuck. We both know it. We know that you listen to your smart and you read your smart books. We know that you have fantasies. We understand. It's not a secret. So instead of pretending like it is, let's recognize that it's not that you don't want pleasure, it's that the distance has grown because the resentment exists. And the resentment exists because you didn't advocate for your needs in that moment. In that moment, the moment where it mattered, the moment where you should have said how you felt, but for whatever reason, you didn't feel safe or comfortable enough to do so. Okay? This is the pattern. We're talking about behavioral psychology. This is the pattern that plays out for so many fucking women. And then we build evidence that our partner cannot fulfill our needs physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, mentally. And then we're going, oh my God, this relationship is so shit. But we haven't even given them the opportunity to do so because we haven't said the thing out loud. Going back to the conversation with my client, right? I need my partner to fulfill my needs. He's just not getting it. Okay, what are your needs? She lists her needs. Have you told him that those are your needs and that's how you would like to have sex? That's something you would like to experiment with? Well, no, because I don't know if that's something he wants to do. How is he going to fulfill your need then? You can't read your mind and you're not dating a fucking psychic. Imagine if you were, that would be so helpful, right? But we are in the energy of advocating for our needs, which means open your fucking mouth and say what you want. That's the only way that you're going to have fulfilling fucking relationships. Because perpetuating the lie does nothing. Convincing yourself that it's fine and eventually he'll get it does nothing. And this is where so many women would rather lie to themselves than admit out loud that your relationship is subpar. It's shit. Your sex life is non-existent. Not because you're not attracted to your partner. For some of you, maybe that's very true. Been there, done that also. But also maybe it's because there's no fucking connection there because no one's been honest. And this is something that I had to learn in my relationship now. When I first got into this, right, 3.5 years ago, I was having sex like I was having sex with my ex. Different person, different needs, different ability. So having a conversation to address all of those things was fucking crucial. Guess what changed after I was honest about how my needs weren't being fulfilled? He was honest about how his needs weren't being fulfilled. Great. Guess whose sex life improved drastically? Ding fucking ding. This shit isn't rocket science. You having a better relationship is not rocket science. It's really fucking simple. It just requires a level of disgusting honesty, which is going to pierce through the insecurity of your relationship and highlight all of the things that no one's addressed. Now, if you actually want that person to be your person for the rest of your life, that is the type of standard of conversation that needs to happen every single week. Don't shoot the messenger. This is where we then address, do you actually want a committed relationship? Do you actually want a better sex life? Or are you happy to suffer and lie to yourself to perpetuate your suffering? This is what I mean when I say I'm not in the business of protecting your feelings. Because how many more months, years are you going to bitch and moan to your best friend about how shit your sex life is and how your partner's never doing the thing for you, yet you haven't told him that directly? And this is the thing. This is the biggest block I see with so many women's relationships. Communication and a level of honesty. And literally ripping the fucking lie from your throat before you even go to say it and going, I need to talk about something with you. You're not fulfilling my needs. That's it. And then the flow-on effect, if your partner, your sexual partner, gets frustrated at you for bringing that up, you're dating a fucking loser. An insecure fuckwit. Okay, so that's the first thing to notice. And the second thing, you need to advocate for your needs anyway. Because yeah, you probably will hurt that person's feelings. They probably will feel a little bit of shame and embarrassment. It's a normal human experience. If my partner said to me, hey, that thing that you've been doing for 6 months, it actually hasn't fulfilled any of my needs, I'd be like, fuck, sorry mate, how do I change it? It's a normal experience. So let your partner have their experience. Let them have their reaction. It means nothing about you advocating for your needs. That was the most important thing you could have done, because in that moment you've built trust and evidence that you can say the hard thing and not die. Right? Because psychology, there's a part of your brain which thinks that every time you do something uncomfortable, you're being chased by a bear. So we're now building evidence to suggest that there is no bear being chased, and we've just said that the sex is fucking subpar and it's mediocre as shit. And you want to try something different. That's the cheat code for having a healthier relationship. Open communication, but it needs to be honest, because no one wins from you lying. Okay? You may preserve your partner's feelings, but guess whose fucking needs still aren't being met? Guess who has to, in secret, use their vibrator to get off? When how much nicer would it feel if you could just have that moment together in connection? Which is what you fucking want to your core, dude. So, this is where I want you to sit with this question. Where are you lying to yourself about the quality of your relationship? And the first thing that comes to your head when I say that, that's your answer. Everything else is what I like to call a distraction ladder. What I mean by this is I'll ask you a question, someone will ask you a question, pardon me, and then we have an initial response, an intuitive pull to an answer, if you will. This is her here, okay? Let's say that for you, something that needs to change is you saying that your sex is shit and your partner's not fulfilling your needs and you would like to try something else. Cool. This is your real problem, okay? If that was fixed, everything else would feel a little bit easier. This is important to know. But what so many women would rather do is distract themselves with what I call the distraction ladder of problems. He doesn't fulfill my needs. He doesn't listen to me. He always leaves his socks on the floor. His fucking mother-in-law, his mum fucking drives me out the wall. My XYZ, yada, yada, yada. It's my childhood trauma. Distraction ladder. Because this was your problem, dude. This was it. So, if we address this root problem first, your distraction ladder doesn't exist. Because, fun fact, when your partner does fulfill your needs emotionally, physically, and you do feel safe to advocate for your needs and speak up openly about how they make you feel in that relationship, and vice versa, your partner doing shit like breathing and leaving their socks on the floor, it doesn't bother you. Because your emotional tolerance to that is lower. Your window of capacity to deal with stress in your relationship, way fucking bigger. Because at the core of it, you're still getting your needs met. So it's like a silly haha thing that happens. And again, I'm having this conversation with so many women, right? My partner breathes and it drives me up the wall. My partner snores and I just want to kick him in the face. You feel that way because somewhere your needs aren't being met. So them existing now feels like a physical threat to you because there's so much resentment because you haven't been honest. Again, don't shoot the messenger. Just sit with that truth and let it penetrate your fucking heart and then reflect. Is it true for me? Is there evidence in my relationship that what Ren is saying is true? If the answer is yes, great, we have things to work on. It doesn't mean you're a shitty fucking person. It just means you now have clarity to change and improve your relationship. And that should be the most important thing because you deserve to be in a good relationship. You deserve to have really fucking good sex with yourself and with your partner. But we can't have that quality of a relationship if we are not honest. And that's the biggest takeaway that I want you to take away from today's episode. So listen to this as many times as you need and understand that this is the energy of the podcast moving forward. This honest, this direct, cutting through the fucking bullshit. Trust me when I say no other fucking coach is going to tell you it like this because everyone is in the business of protecting your feelings. I'm not. This is shit that I wish someone was screaming at my face while shaking my shoulders 7 years ago. Okay? So let me do that for you now. Sit with this feeling. I'm going to love you and leave you there. If you want to improve your sex life and you want a tool to do that, I'm going to leave a link to my Seduction 101 ebook there is a whiteboard task. I want you to go, I think it's page 14. I want you to go to that task, do it with yourself and then your partner, and then message me when it's the best fucking sex of your life because you actually know how to fulfill each other's needs. Okay? Link is in the description. I'll see you guys on the next one.